Welcome to Man Cove Wellbeing and the My Trauma, Your Trauma series with me, Owen Morgan. I want to share my trauma journey and that of others. We will also look at the world of trauma healing, support and research, including guests who specialise in helping those overcome their trauma. My Trauma, Your Trauma is here to explore human experience. So everybody, we are back, and on today's show we are interviewing the amazing Bethany Hoath, based in Minnesota, and we're going to talk about her experiences of trauma, addiction, and the men in her life with their addiction and their own mental health struggles. So welcome to the show, Bethany. How are you today?
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm good. It's, how are you is always such a loaded question with the life I live, but at this moment I'm good.
Yes, it is always when people say how you are, people normally say, yeah, I'm okay. And they just leave it at that, don't they? Normally. But we're here today, and it's around the time of the pandemic and everything going on with coronavirus. So everybody's indoors at the moment anyway. So opportunity to spend some time together. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm really looking forward to talking about this today. But before we get into sort of the main topics that we're going to talk about today, if you want to let everybody know at home a little bit more about yourself and kind of what you do, so we get an idea of that.
Yes. So I'm Bethany Hoath. I am a single mom. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I have been selling something since I knew how to earn it. I could earn a dollar. And I'm a believer in Jesus Christ. My faith has played a huge part in my journey and my healing. And I come from a large family, so had a lot of experience with kids and people, and I enjoy artsy craftsy things and cooking sometimes, but definitely enjoy my time in the gym also. I'm an athlete, a mom, entrepreneur. Yeah.
Yeah, and did I see
kind of well-rounded?
Did I see you're a lover of the oils as well?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I love my essential oils. They have completely changed my life. The chemistry of them blows me away. The way they affect my body, the way they smell. They smell so good. That's like one of the very best parts is they smell amazing.
Yeah, and they're really sort of growing in the awareness now, aren't they? And they're being used in sort of a much more well-being sector-based way, as ways to help with even mental health. Would you say that they're quite powerful for mental health as well?
Absolutely. They are so fabulous for supporting mental health. What happens when you put an oil on your body is that it absorbs entirely into your skin. And the chemical constituents of the essential oil are within every cell in your body in 20 minutes. And so when your body is experiencing a change in chemistry due to a mental health situation, the essential oils will help support the body's natural chemistry, the body's natural homeostasis. And so often after I apply my oils, I feel more calm. I feel more centered. I feel more in my body. It's just been a game changer for the way I cope.
Yeah, that's amazing. Sort of on a biology chemistry level that you said, but we talk a lot about polyvagal theory on the show too, and I'm sure that the oils on some level, the fragrances and that kind of thing, could probably help our state too. If it's a scent that you familiarize with a place of feeling safe, I'm sure it must help shift your state too, would you say?
Oh, absolutely. For example, people are very familiar with lavender. That's probably one of the most popular essential oils. While essential oils have emotions attached to them as well, that they'll work within your body and help work with those emotions. And the emotion attached to lavender is abandonment. So the opposite of that would be safety and connection. And that's one of the reasons why people love lavender.
Yeah, it's absolutely amazing. And as a massage therapist, I use waxes which have a range of different
Mhm.
flower extracts. So lavender's in there, and my clients will
Mhm.
absolutely love it. So it says
Yeah.
it all. Really, really helps my massage work. It's amazing. I think we could probably do a whole episode on oils, but that's not what we're going to be doing today.
Oh, we absolutely could do more than an episode on oils. I could talk about them all day long. There's absolutely an oil for every single thing.
Brilliant. Well, yeah, great stuff. I know you did. I think it was Instagram, wasn't it? You did that live, didn't you? The different oils. So people should
Mhm.
go. People should go over to your Instagram and check that out. It was very cool. So today, as always on the show, it's all about trauma. And the question we always ask first, because I like to get every guest to tell us their version of this. So my question to you is, what is trauma to you? What do you view as being traumatized, and how does it feel to you? So it's just getting an overview of what you think trauma is. I get every guest to tell me. So what is it for you?
Mhm. Trauma is a situation beyond your control that creates a feeling of overwhelm and danger within your body. And clinically, trauma is what happens after that incident. And I think, they just kind of go hand in hand, because you wouldn't have the after if you didn't have the incident. And really, it's that time when the body is overwhelmed, when it senses a danger, and our system goes into overdrive trying to protect us. And it creates a lot of chaos. And yet it's a beautifully designed system. We want to have that energy and adrenaline and the blood flowing to our muscles when we are truly in danger. When we need to run from a predator, we're not trying to stop and think about paperwork or sandwiches. We're trying to run. And then when that danger is gone, it's really hard to switch from thinking about running to thinking about paperwork and sandwiches. And trauma, to me, can be anything that is overwhelming to the system. And there can be times of day or times, different seasons, different times of the week, different times of the month, different vulnerabilities in our bodies can make us more susceptible. The term hangry comes to mind. When we're hungry and angry, our body senses that as a danger. It's sensing a scarcity. It's sensing we're lacking. And at that time, the body can also be more susceptible to the overwhelm of a negative interaction or a negative incident. And it's a whole lot bigger than a lot of people think.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's so many wonderful bits in there that describe this such a good way. And overwhelm is what people often talk to me about, an overwhelming of the body. But we sometimes forget about the body, don't we? We were so focused on the mind and treating the mind that we're
Mm-hmm.
forgetting that the body is always telling us what's going on at any given time, good and bad, and just letting us know what's going on right now. And I don't think we listen to our bodies enough, really. And if you chuck trauma in the mix there too, then there's a lot of signals there, and your mind creates narrative and tries to figure it out, and that gets a bit a little bit of a gray area. And I know with what we're going to talk about today with the addiction side, we know that so many people look to either run away from what they're feeling or just get rid of it completely through addictive behaviors that can kind of crush it. For you, I mean, for your journey, have there been go-to ways that you've used to help you with any body sensations that you've had that don't feel comfortable?
Definitely used alcohol to cope for quite a season. Once I started drinking at 19, I just kind of kept going. I kind of, like, the party years didn't really stop. My ex-husband was in the Army, and let me tell you, the military likes to drink. So definitely used a lot of alcohol. In more recent days, since I quit drinking, I still use social media as an escape. I'm really working on using it as a tool and being intentional when I'm scrolling and actually interacting and engaging and helping break up that zoning and help me to be involved in other people's lives and not just in my own life. And really, it's the body's always seeking to regulate. It's seeking to go back to what it knows. And if you don't know what that feels like, it's definitely harder to get to it. If you've been in trauma your entire life, that's when addictions become a lot more prevalent and a lot harder to battle, because the body literally has no clue what it needs to feel like. It's just striving for something different. And my heart just breaks for those people who don't even know what safe feels like.
Yeah, thank you. It's really powerful. And it's that kind of feeling safe in your own body. You know, some people don't sort of contemplate what that means, but someone once asked me to come into my body and sense somewhere that felt safe. So talking from a sort of polyvagal perspective, where my body feels safe, and I couldn't find anywhere. And that's when I realized, oh, wow, I've been so disconnected from my body that I can't find anywhere that doesn't feel anxious, edgy, heavy, low. And that's when you have that realization. But like you said, not many people get to even to that point, to know what life looks like, and they could have addiction for their whole lives. And I guess, like you said, with social media, it could be something really not as obvious, that's a low-key addiction but has a big impact, but it doesn't massively, not like alcohol or drugs would be. But I'm really glad you said that, because exercise is another one, isn't it? Getting addicted to fitness is huge. And I know you're into your fitness. Has that always been something that you've enjoyed, or do you think that's partly a way of making yourself feel better too?
Definitely both. I've been an athlete about since I started drinking. I completed a marathon when I was 19, 26.2 miles. And same summer I trained for that was the summer I really started drinking. And I think my athleticism has really helped my body cope with a lot of the trauma without being aware of that the exercise induced endorphins definitely can be addictive. And I think it also is such a fabulous tool. It's so important. I mean, we know we're supposed to work out and move our bodies, and I think when we begin to really understand what a gift that is, to have a body that can move, and finding a way that we enjoy moving it. Not all exercise has to be the same. Not all workouts have to be the same. Some days I need to lift some heavy things, like the heaviest thing I can possibly move without hurting myself. And other days I just need to stretch and just feel that blood flowing and feel my toes and then feel my ankles and move on up my body, just to get myself back in touch with this incredible earth suit I have.
It's so powerful. And talking about it from the perspective of connecting to your body, listening to your body. Like you said, right there, you're listening. You know what may be best at any given time, and that, I guess, that's part of half the struggle, is getting to the point of knowing your body well. And that's why we talk about polyvagal theory so much, somatic experiencing on the show, is because it can give you a nice, easy to understand language for how to connect to your body, be it safe, social, fight, flight, shutdown. So has there been sort of language and understanding that you've used to help you through your journey from 19 onwards? Has there been certain things that you followed that help you understand how to get well again?
That's kind of a big question. I think for a long time, I didn't know there was something wrong with me, but I knew I wanted something more. I think that's like a good way to put it. Um, and it's been interesting as I've just grown as a person and just grown in my life to see the different things that have happened and how I've responded to it. You know, things that would have happened if, you know, something that's happening now had happened 10 years ago, how would I have coped with it? And I think it's kind of a trick question, because in 10 years, I'm going to cope differently. In 20 years, you know, we can't fault ourselves for what we didn't know, and we have to forgive ourselves. And, you know, I think that's been a big piece for me, is forgiving myself for not knowing differently, for, you know, I think we always expect ourselves to know better. And sometimes that's just not true. We don't know what we don't know. And the more I learn, the less I do know.
Yeah, it's I deliberately ask questions like that because it really allows people to go, oh, actually, yeah, how would I respond to that? And I think being reflective of your own experiences now, previously, is great, but you have to do it with self-compassion, love and kindness. You have to reflect in a caring, nurturing way, rather than, you know, wow, I behave this way, but I would have been rubbish before. It's all negative language. So it's been really, really key about reflecting on our experiences in a positive manner.
Absolutely.
And, you know, it's that kind of chucking mindfulness in there too, and being mindful of your behaviors and things, but understand that your behaviors may be coming from that place inside you that doesn't feel safe. So your behaviors are being perceived as bad or negative, or you're a horrible person, but it's just coming from how you're feeling in your body right now, and that's your primal reaction. There's something wrong with that. It's natural. But how can you do that with compassion? It's the hardest part sometimes, isn't it, to view yourself that way? So it sounds like you've been able to be what sometimes I call quite high functioning, even with what's happened to you and your reactions since then. So would you say you're quite a high functioning person who has a sort of that background of trauma in there?
Oh, definitely. I would definitely say I'm very high functioning. I look at my life sometimes and I'm just like, oh my gosh, is this real? Like this is really what's happening right now. And it's crazy. It's a lot of things I never would have chosen. I never would have chosen to be separated from my children right now. And it's just a lot. It's overwhelming at times, and I just really fight to stay centered and grounded. And I know that in these times away from my children, that's definitely when it's hardest for me, is when my kids aren't with me. And I also know that that's the time that I can use for me, and I can use that to heal and to rest and to work and to take care of all of the things that you just can't do when you're with two toddlers. And sometimes I do just need to just not be high functioning. Sometimes I go, 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 and I hit a wall and I forget how hard that wall hurts. Because it's kind of a double-edged sword of like the more you heal, the more it hurts when you hit that wall, because you haven't hit one in a while. And it can be easy to, in that moment of crisis, to just fall back into old habits or to disassociate or to shut down. And, you know, those moments are really when the healing comes. When you get the opportunity to make that choice again. And we get to make those choices over and over and over and over and over and over. And in those little minuscule moments is when the healing comes. Because sometimes I choose the old things, not alcohol, of course, but sometimes I choose the new things.
Yeah, thank you. And I guess that wall that you're talking about may feel slightly different every time. So the more healing you go through, the different that wall will feel. And you'll be able to have more clarity on the wall, more reflection on the wall. And even if you do decide to choose something that gets you through the wall experience, this sounds very coded wording, but to get through that experience of the wall, you can be more empowered with even using old behaviors. At least you can use old behaviors with a sense of being aware of it rather than disassociating from it. So those who say they binge out if they're feeling really, really rubbish about something, and they really binge out, as long as they're aware that they're binging out and they understand why they're doing that and why they're using it, it's empowered still, rather than just doing it and not seeing it happen, which is where you may start to slip back. Have I explained that well, do you think?
I think so. Well, I think we have kind of our automatic go-to things. And as we grow, like you said, become more aware of them, and they become a choice instead of a habit. And then once you are aware of it being a choice, then it's easier to actually make a choice. And it's those tiny moments. And even the awareness of the choice is an empowerment. And there's going to be moments when I have the clarity to make a different choice. And then there's moments when I'm like, I'm just going to choose to scroll Instagram right now, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's. I think you explained it slightly less coded than me, so thank you for that. We're here just to share people's messages. And speaking of which, another part of what we're talking about today is kind of, as much as you're comfortable with sharing, kind of how you've got to this point and what other people in your life, men in your life, how that's all impacted, and how has your addiction and mental health stuff shifted and changed through other interaction with other people. Kind of how has that panned out for you?
Oh, that's such a big question. And I think I'm going to go back. I'm going to start with my dad and my childhood. And I grew up in a big family, a Christian family with 9 kids. And we were in a religious cult. So there was a lot of shame, a lot of discipline, a lot of expectations. And so I guess I never really knew that men could be kind and gentle. And as I grew up, there's a lot of talk about marriage and husbands and wives and sex, and a whole nother debacle right there. We could do a whole episode on just husbands, wives, marriage, and sex. That's a whole thing right there. But I looked forward to getting married because I thought that was going to be an escape from my family. And I thought a husband would treat me better than my father did. And as I started dating against my parents' wishes and interacting with men further, it's kind of a confusing season for sure. Dating is a confusing thing, especially when you come from a background of such intense beliefs, that's a good way to put it, about marriage and the interactions between males and females. And when I met my ex-husband, I was in a place in my life where I didn't like what I was living. I didn't like where it looked like it was going, and I didn't really know how to change it on my own. And it was, as I look back on it, I can see so clearly how I was in a state of crisis and trauma and looking for that regulation. I was drinking every weekend, and I'm trying to think of how to like put the story together, in a way that makes sense. And I guess I didn't know trauma was a thing then. I didn't know there was kind of a standard for how my body wanted to feel or how my body could feel. I was kind of just looking for that next high because I wanted to find the life, not just the moment, but the life that would help me feel that. And my ex-husband did that for me. He became my drug of choice. It was a relationship built primarily on sex and alcohol. Take away the alcohol, there wouldn't have been the sex. Take away the sex, there definitely wouldn't have been anything in our relationship to carry it forward. And he was in the Army, so there wasn't a whole lot of time for dilly-dallying and deciding, what are we doing here? So we went from drunk hookup to married in a matter of months. Mm-hmm. And really, it was just one chemical high after another, one trauma bond after another. And, I think so often, like, if I had quit drinking at any point in the last 10 years, what would have changed in my life? Where would I be today? I look at the growth I've had in the last 2 years since I quit. And, I think that's one of my big trauma battles, is knowing that I blinded myself to life by picking up that bottle. And yes, it became a coping mechanism. It was what got me through. And yet, I never would have kissed him if I wasn't drunk. And I was actually dating someone else at the time and cheated on him. I still, to this day, like, we haven't, my ex-boyfriend, I haven't talked in 10 years. And, now that I've been cheated on, I just want to go back to him and apologize for that. And it's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of hurt in these men who've been in my life. And seeing the secondary trauma of how it's affected me, how my dad's trauma has affected all of us kids, how my ex-husband's trauma has affected me, and how it's now affecting our children. And now, like I said earlier, what I use in 10 years is going to be different to cope. And it's the same way with my story with the men in my life and the experiences I've had, like in 10 years versus 10 years ago, just how my interactions with men have changed, how my faith in men has changed. And and I just believe fully in the power of a healthy couple. It's tenfold the power of a healthy individual, because when you have that solid partner, and you're when you're both fighting to be solid, it's so very different than when you're each pulling each other down. When you're both drowning trying to float with each other, and when you each find a life preserver, it changes the game. And I found my life preserver and tried to throw my ex-husband a life preserver, and he'd grab it and he'd hang on and he'd be like, let's change things. But then he'd let go. And I've just been clinging to my life preserver.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. It's just listen to hearing you talk, just all the little kind of nuggets in there which kind of have impacted your life. And the fact that you mentioned trauma bond is really powerful, because I think not many people understand what we mean by trauma bond. But you can get different relationships, can't you? Ones where one's trying to save the other one, so one's like finished their journey and they've got stuck in a savior mentality for their partner. There's trauma bonds where you've had a similar trauma and you've actually bonded over that experience, and that can be either a powerful thing or a very, very bad thing, because you're both stuck inside the same sort of belief system created by that trauma. And yeah, just thank you for mentioning that, because really important part of that journey is that bond you had. I just want to go back to something you said about, and in the beginning, about wanting to, I guess, feel something. Would you say that there was an element of complete disassociation? So were you more shut down, shall we say, than anxiety sufferer? Was it very much you didn't feel anything and therefore you were trying to? Is that right?
Yeah, I would say that's right. I would say I had a lot of numbness and disassociation and wanting to escape and wanting a different life. I just remember so much as a child just wanting something different.
Yeah, so it's kind of, I can't remember what the right word was it, but you've gone out there into the world to create a world that you think will give you this body feeling, this emotional joy, or whatever you want to call it. So do you think you went out into the world looking to build some form of concept of life to make you feel?
Yeah, I definitely was looking for something. I mean, really what I was looking for was God, and that I wanted to fulfill my life with something on earth. And there's only so much that a body can be satisfied. There's a point where you're not gaining anything by continuing to find a further high. And that I think the search continues when the body doesn't know it's found it, because it's just been so dysregulated for so long. And, like sometimes there'll be moments when I'm with my kids and we're having a really great time and everything is good. And I'll find myself wanting to kind of separate from that. And I know it's because my body senses that my body knows that the separation is coming again. And so I don't want to get too attached. I don't want, I want something that's going to distract me because I know that further pain is coming later. It's good now in the moment, but pain is coming later. And I think that awareness is such a huge part of our life, that it's good now. Pain will always come later. Always. There will always be something hard later. And there will always be something good later. And I think the secret is to ground in this moment and recognize, like, this, I don't want to put a cap on it and say this is as good as it gets, because it can always get better. But in this moment, this is a good moment. And the body gets scared of that good moment. The body doesn't know what that good moment means. The body is expecting the good moment to end. So it's gearing up. It's ready to protect itself. And I know for me, life is so much more enjoyable when I learn to be more in tune with those moments, and I know when to put my armor on and when to take my armor off. And the more awareness I have of those, the more fluid those movements can be, and the more my body can adjust to being right here.
Yeah, there's so many aspects from what you said there, and I've got two key things that just came up for me, which was from a kind of needs met perspective. So getting your needs met when you're a child, from the childhood you said you had. Do you feel like your needs were met at any point in childhood, and maybe that does impact your adulthood too?
Being the second oldest of 9 kids, I spent a lot of time not being a child. I spent a lot of time with adult expectations of childcare and household duties. And that kind of led to a loss of self, the greater good type of mentality. And it also led to a scarcity mindset of there not being enough affection from my parents, not being enough food, not being enough time to play. And I think those things definitely have carried over into my adulthood, and definitely affect me, that on the hard days, it's a lot harder to step back and step away from the old, what's fired together is wired together mentalities, and to recognize that, like, this is a new day and this is a new life, and I get to be in control, and there is enough.
Yeah, it just made me think a lot about co-regulation, self-regulation from a polyvagal perspective. There are other ways of saying that, but for argument's sake, we're going to say polyvagal because that's my language. But they say how you can't really ever learn self-regulation tools without co-regulation first. You need co-regulation to instill the resources to be a self-regulator. And it sounds, especially for children who end up growing up far too quickly to look after siblings, or grow up quick because maybe they lose a parent, they never get shown the co-regulation tools and nurturing to be able to be a good self-regulator for themselves. And then those people go out into the world trying to co-regulate and not really knowing how to do it because no one showed them. I don't think people realize, I get emotional when I say this stuff, but I don't people realize how utterly important parenting is, how important it is, and how scary it is that anybody can have a parent anywhere in the world. There's no exams, there's no courses, and there's so much that all of us have been through, and we're going to pass that forward. But honestly, parenting is so important. That co-regulation is key, and it sounds like maybe you didn't get enough co-regulation there, perhaps, for yourself, self-regulation. And when you sort of found out more about polyvagal theory and stuff like that, did it kind of help you understand more about how your childhood, maybe you didn't realize your childhood was so impactful? Did you not really know that until a bit later? You went, wow, okay, maybe it was my childhood.
I've been aware of my childhood impacting me for probably about 15 years now. I knew the way I grew up wasn't quote unquote normal. And I saw things kind of as a black and white. There's either Christian families or there was non-Christian families, and somehow though it didn't seem right that like my family was supposed to represent the love of God, and yet it felt scary. And it's definitely impacted the way I perceive my childhood now that I know about polyvagal theory. And as I interact with my children, my sons are 3 years old and 4 years old. And growing up, I spent 6 years of my life around a 3-year-old boy. I have 6 younger brothers. So I also spent 6 years of my life around a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old. You know, there's really nothing when it comes to the day-to-day toddler life, nothing surprises me. I'm well prepared. But there's a huge, huge difference between keeping a toddler alive and parenting a child. And, the way I interact with my kids has definitely shifted. I can see in them when they're connected, when they're safe, when they look me in the eye, when they make contact and we have a discussion. I can see when they get dysregulated, when they are dropping down their ladder. And I can sense their need to feel safe, because it's really, we're just perpetual 3-year-olds, all of us. We just want to be loved and have our snacks and our people and our entertainment. That's all we want as adults. We want our people and our food and to have fun. And I just am grateful that I can give my kids a different life, that regardless of what happens when they're not with me, I just have to trust God over that. But I can be present when I'm with them, and I can interact with them, and I can take the time to work through that meltdown and to help them recover it and learn. Like my 3-year-old, he gets really upset when I leave the room. Like if I go downstairs without him and he notices, he is unsafe. He feels that separation. And so I've been asking him now, after I come back to him, I hear him and I come back to him and I pick him up and I hug him. And I've been asking him, are you safe now? And he goes, yes. And that just gives me such a sense of peace that he can see the difference. I want my kids to know what that good, safe feeling in their body is, so that they can come back to it when they don't have it.
That's amazing. And it kind of just shows that even through, everything that you've been through, it's actually empowered you with the ability to probably be an even more amazing parent than you would have been without those experiences in the first place. Because I think people who were brought up really well and very safely can end up being, wonderful parents. Those that have been traumatized can be wonderful parents. But those that aren't trauma informed or aware of their behavior, that's where it gets a little bit more mixed and a bit more muddled. And it sounds like you're going to be able to, give these little ones the most amazing life because you're aware of human experience, so you can tune into those guys and give them the co-regulation they need. So what does life look like for you? So I know that it's co-parenting going on. So for you going forward, is it just more personal development, learning, hopefully more time with your kids, and just, yeah, sharing your message? Is that the plan?
Yep. My initial goal is to get 50% time with my kids, and um, and then I use the rest of the time to work on my own recovery. You know, the separation from my kids is really traumatic. It's really hard, and then on top of the separation, there's always that conflict and confrontation with my ex-husband, and that tension. And some days the aftermath of the exchange is worse. And so sometimes I just need to take that time to work on my recovery and to regulate, and to know that my body is having a chemical crap storm, and it's legitimate and it's real, and it needs time to calm down. And then the rest of the time, I miss going to the gym. That's like the one thing I'm like really sad about with everything that's going on. I need my squat rack and my box jumps, and I know that's a huge piece in helping myself regulate. And then, yeah, just spread my mission of healing and to teach. You know, I just want to spend my time away from my kids, taking care of myself and teaching others how to take care of themselves, and get paid lots of money for it. Someday, teaching wellness is going to pay all my bills and then some. And it's such a vast, vast thing to take care of yourself. You know, it's people hear self-care and they think of like a bubble bath or candles or, you know, all these things. And really what it means is showing your body that it's okay and that it's safe to live. You know, when you're busy washing your hair in the shower, you're vulnerable, and that can be hard. And you know, at all times I have my thoughts with me, and I can get in my head or I can get in my body. And to get in my body means also to be aware of the life around me. And I feel like I'm a little bit all over the place right here, but to go back to the basics, that's really my goal, is to go back to the basics of self-care and self-hygiene and self-nutrition and eating real food. You know, it takes time and energy to eat real food. And I just want to encourage people to eat real food. I know that makes a huge difference in myself. And the chemistry of food, you know, it's a huge piece of recovery. The chemistry of whatever you put in your body, whether it's alcohol or cupcakes or kale or essential oils or supplements or water, caffeine or sugar, fried foods, organic vegetables, you know, every single bite affects the body. And that's really my mission, is to bring people to the awareness of their body and the power that we each have. And even when it feels overwhelming and like there's so many things to do and there's so many things to take care of, is to just like step back and say, okay, what does my body need so I can be here and now, so I can enjoy this moment, so I can know that I'm safe in this moment, and so that I can be ready and hopeful for tomorrow as well.
Wow, thank you. What an epic answer to my question. Thank you very much. But yeah, I know, I totally understand what you're saying about self-care. It's so often that people have this interpretation of what self-care means. But I always like to sort of chuck in self-compassion in there, because self-compassion brings in everything: care, love, respect, just having compassion for yourself, for all of you are, you know, all that you do, all the behaviors, all of the triggers that affect you, all the special moments that help you, and just be super duper compassionate, because that can bring on a level of safety. And from a polyvagal perspective and feeling safe and social, they say it's very difficult to really heal unless you're in safe and social. Your body chemistry isn't quite right. If you're in fight and flight, you can't do what it needs to do. Shut down, especially. That's my story. You know, depression and eating problems and major anxiety made me very physically ill, not just mentally ill, physically ill, because my chemistry was all out of whack. And that level of compassion is key. And, you know, we create narrative, don't we? We create narrative as well around our own experiences because of the way we feel. So it's just stepping back, looking back in, observing, and being super duper compassionate about it too, because life can be bloody hard work, and you're going to slip up, you're going to trip up, and you're going to make silly decisions. But just be compassionate about it. There's no point just getting stuck in this vicious cycle of you versus you, which is what most of us get stuck into. And it sounds like the journey that you've been on has got such a lovely level now of compassion for yourself and allowing your sensations to be there and your emotions to be there. When you drop off your kids, it's going to suck, but you have to show love and compassion to that emotion of feeling rubbish, because it's natural for you to feel like that. Of course it is. You're a mum. Of course you're going to feel that way. But feeling that emotion of pain, but surrounding a little bubble of love, surely is going to be helpful. It's a really nice way to do it. So for everyone listening at home, like, what would be your key message to anyone listening now who's been where you've been or is on a journey through trauma? Like, what would you say to them in this moment to help them feel, I guess, supported, safe and nurtured by themselves? Or your message?
I believe, not just think, I believe that we each have the capacity to honor ourselves. And, you know, I think before you can have compassion for something, you have to have respect and love and honor for it. And I just want each person to know how deeply they are loved and how deeply worthy they are. And that our bodies are a gift. And while there's so many things that we cannot control, that there are things we can control. And so that's the piece there, is to find what we can control and to control it with grace and belief and honor for ourselves, of that, yeah, you know, this moment might be really, really, really awful. And this moment will pass. And there will be something better to come. And every single day, I know there's something I can do for a better tomorrow. That doesn't mean I have to solve all the things. That doesn't mean I have to, you know, beat myself up about yesterday's mistakes. And, you know, if I make the conscious choice that, you know, today I'm going to get a little fast food garbage treat because sometimes you just need some French fries. But knowing that every day there are moments to choose. And when you can find those little moments, those little glimmers, and celebrate that. Celebrate that. I think that's a huge piece that people forget. People think that victory has to be this huge thing. You know, I get a lot of accolades for the fact that I haven't drank alcohol in 2 years. And honestly, that's like the easiest thing in my life, to not pick up the bottle. Because I hit the bottom. I know how easy that is, but I also know that like progress is progress is progress. And whether it's alcohol or eating or self-harm or other destructive behaviors, the goal is to grow. The goal is not to change your life overnight, because nobody can do that. Yeah, I managed to quit drinking overnight, and that was a gift from God. I know not everyone has that ability to just do it. And I could tell the story of that night, because that's a whole nother thing. You know, that was a moment. You know, it was a reckoning. It was a changing. But even if I had just simply cut back and changed that to an awareness, that would still be a victory. We need to take every single victory and celebrate it. Even if it's the little tiny things of like, you know what? Today I chose the whole wheat bread instead of the white bread. Victory right there. Today I chose water instead of a soda. Victory right there. So what if you have the soda tomorrow? So what if you have the soda later today? Right now, celebrate that water win and enjoy that and feel that celebration in your body, so you can take that into the next choice. Because you know what? Last time I chose to have Wendy's, I felt crappy afterwards. And I actually made a video of myself talking to myself, saying like, I want you to come back to this the next time you want to have some fast food. Because yeah, it was good. It was a choice. And is that really what we want? And it's not. And I haven't hit a drive-through since. Granted, it's been 2 weeks. Let's not get too excited here. But that piece of awareness, that piece of victory is what carries me through to the next choice and the next choice and the next choice, over and over and over, gracefully, compassionately, with honor, because my body is worthy.
Thank you. I love that. And I like the glimmer. I'm going to echo that. It's such a great way. Look at those mini victories, those glimmers. And because I know Deb Dana from Polyvagal talks about triggers and glimmers, you know, being aware of what triggers you and then what things bring you back up the ladder, those glimmers, those special moments that we take for granted, I think. And another example that I wanted to just echo there was with meditation. A lot of people that start meditation think, right, I'm going to meditate 10 minutes a day. That's the way to do it. And then they'll miss a day and they'll be like, oh God, I missed a day. And rather than just taking it a day at a time, go, today I meditated. I'm so proud of myself. And then we'll see what happens tomorrow. And they may not do it. And then they can do it again the next day. But that's a totally different conversation with yourself then, isn't it? It's like, well done, mate. You got your 10-minute meditation in. How do you feel? Do you feel great? Brilliant. And then go off and enjoy your day. And it's just so important, isn't it? Like you said, to celebrate those little things, because they start to grow after a while and your whole nervous system starts to shift and change through those little moments that you have. It's beautiful. But I want to thank you so much for coming on today. I'm aware that we could probably do a 3-hour interview here, but we're just gonna slow it down. But like I said to Millie on the first episode, like I'm saying to you on the second episode, 100% going to bring you back on. We'll talk some more on different subjects. So guys, yeah, keep an eye out, because Bethany will be back on with us soon. So anybody watching at home, is Instagram the best place to check you out and what you're up to? Is that the...
Yeah, probably Instagram. I am the Oily Wifestyle.
Okay.
And I'm on Facebook as the Oily Wifestyle. However, I'm definitely more active on Instagram. I'm not on Twitter. I've considered it. I'm not on TikTok. I'm not on, not really on Snapchat. So probably Instagram is probably the best way to find me and to get connected. And I would love to chat with anyone who wants to talk about this wellness thing, because wellness is so much better than illness.
I think that's a great tagline to finish the chat here. But no, you're spot on. I want to thank you so much for sharing your story, being so raw and so vulnerable. That's the whole point of this show, is to inspire people to do the same, because there's some real healing in that vulnerability. Brilliant. So thank you so much. I'll pop a link for various places they can find you in the description of this video. But yeah, speak to you again very soon. And I hope everybody at home got value out of what we discussed here today. So thanks everyone for listening, and let's head back to the studio.